Hey everyone, this is Jean, and you're watching a little daily indie video game update on Friday the 1st of March 2026. And today I finally got to make one of these little videos where I simply get to hug the walls of all the collision and beta test my own little game. Double the amount of polygons in place. I am now close to sealing off the one chunk of the map that I was working on. I need to hug all the walls to see which walls need a little tweak, a little offset, because of the perspective that the camera has in each of these rooms that I'm stepping into. That causes things not to align the way I see them when I put them down. So it's a lot of work, but I think it's going to pay off. What happened late last night, let me just pause this one. This was really late at night, like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. I thought I'd get some more dev time in, and then this happens. Where's my player? Where are my controls? And then a very long list of nothing but errors. And I just couldn't figure it out. I started undoing things because I had just deleted some things that are off to the side that I'm clearly not going to use anymore. So I undid deleting them. Same thing. And I just couldn't figure out what the problem was, because I hadn't touched anything to do with the controller, with the player. Pretty much did what I did every day for the last week. Put down the collision, test the collision, exit Unreal, go over it again next day. I thought maybe the player sprite had fallen and this is just a shadow and the transparency had stopped working. None of that. What the log is actually hinting at is that, and then I started looking into it, but there was no errors in my nodes, right? But what it's hinting at is all these objects in the game world are referencing to the player, and the player is clearly no longer in the game. Start asking questions like, well, where could the player have gone? I started checking in with Gemini, and this is, I guess I kind of want to have a little chat about AI and indie game dev, because of my office job, we are confronted with AI in all sorts of ways, where a lot of my coworkers are starting to freak out a little bit. Not every project is going to survive, and that means, of course, jobs, possibly our job. There's different uses of AI, and then there's what I use as a consumer myself, where for the most part, AI is a bit of a toy, right? When I use AI in Unreal, or with Unreal, I should say, what I'm actually doing is, it's really just a much more advanced way of searching the web. I have tried to make little games before when I was learning Swift and Xcode for Apple platforms, and I really wanted to get into SpriteKit because I like these retro games. I wanted to make one. The amount of information available was just very limited, and there was information out there. It was very hard to find. And what I find with Unreal is there's a lot more information available. There's a lot of courses available nowadays, but for very specific problems, for very specific use cases, it can still be really hard finding it. And this is where, when you simply ask ChatGPT or Gemini, it finds it. And it allows me, it doesn't fix my problem, but it really puts me on a path to at least in the right direction of where I should be looking. So with this problem, player is missing. I haven't touched the player blueprint. So the player, of course, gets initiated at the start of the level when the level begins. But I couldn't find it in a level blueprint. Nothing over there had changed, and nothing I had deleted and then put back had touched that. So what does that leave? Booted up my game, and suddenly my player character is gone, replaced with a black sphere in Unreal Engine. But seeing a black sphere is actually a very specific calling card in Unreal Engine. It usually means the engine doesn't know which actor to place in the world, so it defaults to the default pawn. I started playtesting, not in the pie, like the separate editor window, which is full screen, but I started playtesting in the editor directly so that I could pause, and using this little eject button, eject myself out of the game while the game is playing, and then look, and I saw default game pawn. So I'd noticed that already, right? I just didn't know what to do with it. Here it is, verified player start. I had done that. Go to the world settings, look for the game mode override. I'd never touched that. I didn't know what it was talking about, right? I haven't touched my player start except give it a different position. Let's see, if the player start was moved, it's very likely the new position is causing a collision fail. also something I thought about. Like, what if something simply fell through the world and the black sphere is the only thing that's left, right? Bad size warning didn't apply to me. Let's get to... So when I booted up my game, I started on the default map with mountains. That was very quick. So I'd already forgotten about it because, you know, running into this kind of problem just overloaded my brain. There was a moment when I started Unreal Engine at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I just noticed like, hey, this isn't my level. This is that like default game level where you have a plane and there's mountains all around you in a 3D world. What is this? So I simply selected my correct level and continued. That's when the trouble began. What you're seeing is a temple default map. If Unreal Engine can't find your specific level, or if the project settings got reset, it loads that empty landscape. Since your custom game mode isn't assigned to that mountain, it spawns the black sphere. So we went into the project settings and we were directed to look at maps and modes. Find this one. And lo and behold, it had been changed, so I changed it back over there. Didn't fix the player, but this one, DefaultEngine.ini file, I never heard of it until last week, because there's the particular bug that keeps showing up on screen, and I decided I want to get rid of this bug. I looked it up. Apparently there's like a, not a blacklisted, but like a approved denied list. Like they changed the wording of behind the scenes stuff, and so I had to update that file, and then that error would go away, and it did. That was the only time I touched it. And so apparently it's possible the engine crashed and reset this file that I never knew about until this week. There's the mountains, this right here in maps and modes. This all got set back to what it once was. It also kind of made me realize that a lot of this stuff got set up probably a year ago. I hadn't the slightest idea what it was supposed to be anymore because I haven't looked there for a long time. I got this one. So I got something changed. Still bad. This is where I simply dropped in all the runtime errors, like this whole list, and it actually froze everything for like a minute. Chrome stopped working. It needed a minute to load all this and then have a look at it. But this mountain of error confirms exactly why you're seeing the black sphere. Access none, trying to read property as BP main char. The main char is missing. So it starts talking about having valid checks, and in my mind, it's like, that is not going to work here, right? Small game. I decide exactly what the player character is. Like, I don't need to double check that. But here, the solution is going over everything and placing the correct... See, I switched to GM Adventure. That wasn't actually the correct one. I'd simply forgotten and needed to go through my whole list here of various projects stitched together. Which one of these projects end up being the correct game mode blueprint? Long story short, we found it. It's a beautiful thing. Didn't fix the controller issue I was having. That was next. And that turned out to be a lot easier because it actually has like a favorites list or list of things used recently, right? I started looking at the actual controller, but I did that right after making this video. So you guys, what a nightmare. I really just wanted to put this quickly into words, and I hope that if anyone runs into this problem where their DefaultGame.init file in Unreal Engine 5.4 gets corrupted, you need to look at your maps and modes, and you need to get rid of all the defaults and put back in your own game mode blueprint back to our regular scheduled adventure. Oh, and the fact that I hadn't, backed up in like a month was another thing that came to light late last night. Struck fear in me. This Friday, the 1st of May. But it's working now. I just have to prove it to you. It's all working, collision, everything, how I left it off.